Hello and welcome to the Jets of Time Week 4 Camp Spekkio stream. I am Rithryx and joined in the commentary booth by Cthulhu Crisis.
Hello! How's everyone doing tonight?
This week, it's a bit back to basics with the exception of one additional flag that has not yet been seen. Duplicate characters. What that entails is that when a character is assigned to the randomizer, they can end up as anyone else. These duplicates, for the purposes of combat, are identical to the characters they appear as. For the purposes of quests, you will still be required to get the character who are initially named those characters. For example, you still need to find Marley in order to do the King's Trial check. You can identify them by their palette. Their palette is unchanged from what they originally were. So you'll see 3 different frogs with 3 different palettes, and they started as 3 different characters, for example. Let's get right into it. 3?
Yeah,
2,
I think this will be pretty interesting.
1. We have a Robo, and somebody else I missed. Starting off,
So already this looks different to me.
Yep. As you can see, we have 2 different Aylas. One initially started as Robo, and the other initially started as Magus. For the purposes of combat, she will have access to everything that Ayla initially had. However, for the purposes of checks, the Ayla in the lead, hello Ruby Knife, we don't need that yet. For the purposes of checks, she will count as Robo, so she will be allowing us access to the desert check. So as soon as we go in there and kill Retinite, we are capable of collecting the key item from Fiona's Shrine.
So say again, so these are Robo and Magus.
Correct. As you can see, the Ayla in lead was initially named Robo and has Robo's palette. Therefore, she will grant access to the desert check. Magus does not have a check behind him, and therefore this one is simply another Ayla.
So, but they're both going to have the same tech?
They will have access to all the same text, but this text will be in a unique order for each of them unless the randomizer chose to give them both the same one, which is extraordinarily unlikely to happen. Unfortunately, this Robo's ribbon I can't put on this Ayla because she's Ayla and not a Robo. So unless I happen to find someone who has been assigned as Robo, I won't be able to use that key item. It's still a good one to have, though, just in case. The initial setup when using duplicate characters really isn't any different than any other time. And since we have 2 different Aylas, it is safe to perform the Denadora grind initially.
I'm a big fan of Denadoro grind.
Absolutely.
When you have the right characters. And this is like a great squad for that.
Since they are both Aylas, it actually doesn't matter which order I use their attacks in, as long as I make sure the second and fourth ones hit the birds. Ayla will do that much damage, regardless of who she started as.
Yeah, so Ayla and Magus both have enough damage with a crit to one-shot these bellbirds, and that is what makes this grind so worth it.
Not to mention you gain 4 levels in your first 2 attacks.
Absolutely.
Ooh, cat attack, drop kick, charm, and tailspin. Oh my, that's actually a really good setup for 2 different Aylas. Because now I have access to a hard-hitting, a cheap but slightly less hard-hitting physical attack, charm in general for gear, and tailspin, which means I'm not going to be locked out by the hypothetical mutant in the cathedral if we were running boss random. May as well get some desert loot. Tonic. Useful, but not strictly necessary at the moment. Green Dream. Oh, that's going to come in handy. Blue Vest. And a mid-tonic. Alright. Not too much. I have not yet found all of my groceries, so let's keep shopping.
So we've talked a few times here about the pallets. I'm just going to post a link in chat here to the wiki that kind of discusses those palette changes a bit more.
Yeah, there is a solution matrix available on there for learning which characters, when replaced by whom, look like what. It's a very useful resource. You can thank Lord Batsy for making it.
When we get on the other side of this fight, if we can turn game sound down a hair more,
yeah,
we've had a couple of requests in chat. So Ryan Twist in chat saying those pallets are great. It was actually pretty important to the devs when they were working on all of that to make sure that all of the pallets were appealing. Palette rando had been discussed in the past, but it was one of those things where if we were going to do it in any form, we wanted to do it in a way that looked good every time. Not random for the sake of random, but I think they all ended up looking really cool. Like, this looks like an 80s inspired team.
I could tell from the hairdo. Ooh, Frog
yeah, exactly.
This time around is just Frog, vanilla. He will be able to open the magic cave should we go with the Magus Castle route. That also means that the vanilla Frog in our party right now will be able to equip the Grand Leon Hero Medal as normal. If there was a frog replacing a different character, then the character who is Frog but replaces a different character will also be able to equip the Grand Leon and Hero Medal. Duplicates can use the gear of the character whose sprite they share, and are forbidden from using other characters' equipment, as you might expect.
I know it gets a little confusing with like what characters were rolled and what they look like. I want to make sure that we go over that info a couple times. So, is the sprite they're using correlates to which aspect of them?
The sprite they're using tells you what combat
It's like their
capabilities
tech
they will
list.
have. Their tech list, their equipable gear, and tech list, equipable gear, and statistic and stats, essentially.
Okay. And then their color palette, as you've said, is what character
they were
sitting
initially
in
starting
for.
as. So, the character palette, as you can see, Robo has greenish tan hair, but is Ayla. So she will have the ability to perform cat attack and triple kick, but will also count for the purposes of unlocking desert.
I like Mershana in chat said it pretty clear too. So the name of the character determines quests, sprite determines everything else.
Correct. The name of the character, however, is malleable with the option to change it at generation time or at runtime. So it's important to
Sure.
It is important to make the distinction that you can do either one, just as long as you remember which one you renamed it at.
Perfect. I know like the more we get into like strategies based off of that information, the more important it's going to be that everyone involved has an understanding of that.
Mm-hmm. As it should be. Unfortunately, this time around, we did not get a very quick screen clearer, so we're going to do this a slow way.
So are there certain parties early on that would maybe make you look at a check that might be outside of reach normal, like with a normal party? Like, are there two characters that if you get two of the same character, it's just very powerful?
The ones that come
you've
to
noticed
mind,
in your runs?
the ones that come to mind are Luca and Marley, because they actually have two duplicate dual techs as opposed to just one. Though any mirror matches such as Ayla Ayla or Robo Robo can work out. The reason for that is because Glacier and Point Flare, one of two of Luca's and Marley's mirror match techs, are actually quite powerful.
I'm a big fan of Glacier, so I'm gonna have to go out and look up this double Glacier.
Mm-hmm. Right now, unfortunately, our two Aylas do not have Rock Throw, either of them, which is the prerequisite to having Beast Toss between them.
So and having Beast Toss early, could make Denadoro more appealing.
Mm-hmm. That it would.
Okay.
It depends on which techs you roll, especially with Tech Rando.
That's interesting. This team would have drop kicks for days too, potentially.
They would. However, they would also have a lot of trouble with any of the magic requirement bosses, such as Heckran or Terra Mutant. Because
true.
Because my current loadout consists only of water and tailspin. That's not a lot, and they don't have any synergy with each other. And you may or may not have noticed from the lack of flashing right before the boss is disintegrating, but this particular seed has had the reduced flash cosmetic flag applied to it, which reduces which reduces and eliminates some flashes from the game for helping people with photosensitivity.
Yeah, and that's one of those features that we're looking to get some more testing out. So I don't think we've had any major issues, but definitely something that we want to test more and more.
Indeed. So, as per usual, the person who is in the castle is shuffled. However, who they are is up for debate, and we're about to find out who it is. Depending
I'm
upon...
hoping it's a Chrono that looks like Frog.
Unfortunately, it's a Chrono who looks like Ayla. So
Oh,
I currently have the ability to make a team that is stupidly good at single target physical damage, but would utterly fail against anything that requires magic.
that palette is so confusing to my brain.
Well, you can see that Ayla's clothes are matching what Chrono originally had, and her hair has been changed to Chrono's red. So the palettes
looks
change.
good.
The palettes do change to reflect who they are, and it's done a pretty darn good job. I have Kiss, Roller Kick, Tailspin, Dino Tail. Okay, this should be workable for doing Xenan, assuming that Xenan is anything good. Honestly, I may just do Xenan anyway for the levels.
Likes to drop great stuff too.
True. With this team in particular, because I have 3 Aylas, I have 3 characters all with 13 speed, so I'm going to get an attack off before anything else in the game. Oh, Pendant. Yeah, we're keeping that. Definitely keeping that.
Well, this is going to be an easy bridge.
Never say that. There is no such thing as easy, ever. It will, however, be easier than normal.
Maybe you'll get 2 Prism Spec drops on the bridge.
We shall
That'd
see.
be nice.
Now then, since we don't typically have Ayla this early in the game, Ozzy does have something to charm and count, and the charm hit counts as one of his 3 hits to make him run away. So let's go make that happen.
I like it. Some of the new players may or may not know, you can actually charm every enemy twice.
Yep.
So
the first
one of the charms. Yep. Go ahead.
The first one
Sounds
should
like
give you the item that the enemy will charm, and the second one will give you the item the enemy will drop. So it's not required to get multiple charms in, but it can be handy if you've got multiple enemies that drop really nice things.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're just really low on consumables on a seed, and you're like, all right, I need to grab a few things here.
Yeah, such as maybe Lost Worlds with no ethers. May as well make sure we're topped off before heading into Xenan, heading into Zombor.
A rare showing of the Xenan menu glitch. I like that.
Necessary, though. Otherwise, I wouldn't be topped off. Dream Gun. That'll sell for some money. One thing to note is that because you have duplicate characters enabled, you're not necessarily going to have a use for all of the weaponry you pick up, which means that, especially for Ayla in this particular case, I have a lot of cash sitting in my inventory waiting to be sold. I'm pretty sure that Tailspin is going to do more damage than Rolo Kick. Let's go make that happen.
Yeah, pretty well executed.
As well
Zombor.
as it can be with access to these techs.
Yeah.
Probably.
I like going to Xenon in most seeds. It's a quick check, if nothing else. You get to see what it is before you fully commit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that bad of a fight, and sometimes the bridge itself will just drop a couple nice items.
Unfortunately, not this time around, but you can't win them all. Tapenhelm and Wallring.
Wallring's a lot of gold.
Yeah.
I don't think gold's going to be much of a problem for us this seed, though.
Probably not, but we'll find out when we get there. As per usual, the Naga et Bromide is capable of being turned into this old man for a power tab, a speed tab, and a magic tab. And given the fact that I have 3 Aylas, power tabs are kind of nice. Unfortunately, I also have no full screen clears with magic, so right now Hecaran Cave is a very bad option.
So right now, in your decision making, are you thinking of additional places you could unlock characters? Like,
I am, however, I don't have access to the two halves of the Moss Immune or to prehistory. I do have access to the future if I want to go through that, which honestly I might, because desert with single target techs only, which have a chance of missing, and no water magic. Well, I do have 1 water magic. I could do that. Let's go do this. Okay, attack and triple kick, that's good. Plus gain to the future will allow me to get the sealed chests, which, while Ayla's starting gear is good, it's not the greatest.
See, I was curious about that because I know in Lost Worlds we only have 4 character spots, and so like it's kind of a big deal to see who your options are. I assumed it would be similar in this mode as well, but I wanted to hear your opinion.
That's much more important when you combine duplicate characters with Boss Rando, because with Boss Rando, you do not know which boss is going to be where, and therefore you need to round your team to have some capacity to deal with whatever the game throws at you. With 3 Aylas and 1 Tailspin, that it wouldn't be a good idea to go up against, say, Hecaran, or Terra Mutant, or Giga Mutant for that matter. Because you wouldn't have any access to your physical text because it wouldn't do anything. With access to duplicate characters, it is more important to look at every single character you have available instead of just picking your favorite 3 if they happen to be given to you and going. However, with standard race flags, that's much less important.
Okay.
Not quite powerful enough to kill the guards in 1 hit. I'll have to use Cat Attack. good news is, about starting with 3 different Aylas, I am basically as set as I can be without running into more red vests and red males for Son of Sun. So I can probably take it. I could probably take him on with 1 additional check under my belt, or 0 if I feel particularly ambitious. Now here's a decision, as soon as this guy dies, that I usually make whenever I have any access to the Chrono character. Do we save Fritz or not? The answer is yes, because we have Chrono and we like mid-ethers.
As long as you remember to go and get the mid-ethers. I know a lot of people
Well,
that forget to go back for them.
I actually normally run them. I actually normally go and get them when I'm entering Go mode and can't leave, and cannot come back. For example, going into Zeal Palace, or going up the Skyways to Zeal, or going into Black Omen. So it's usually last on my list of things to do, but that does mean that it's available for the end game. Ooh, a Pearl Edge. That'll make a frog actually useful to come into my party. Maybe I'll do Desert after I do Son of Sun. And since these guys are dropping shields, I may as well grab them. Shields being the one that reduces physical damage taken, particularly of note against Lavos spawns. Or Dalton, if you're unlucky enough to run into him. As per usual, you can see which characters come back into your party. No real difference from race flags, though. Always a good idea to save in a second slot, just in the event that your team is incapable of overcoming the boss, which can happen more in race flags.
Yeah, I'm glad people seem to have started to do that more with like boss rando, using those extra save slots as like an additional resource. I think that's such a good idea.
That it is. One thing to note, the Dragon Tank uses the same code, or at least some of the same code, as Masa and Mune. So the second tech of whomever is replacing Chrono will dissipate the charge the wheel is building up. Ooh, a Siren. Pretty sure that one can't be sold, though. It'll be handy if we get a Marley somewhere. Unfortunately, with this team, there isn't too much of synergy between them at the moment because they're all duplicates, and but at least two of them need Rock Throw in order to unlock Beast Toss.
Yeah, I think for the position you're in, it's a good team because their damage output for this early is high. But it's definitely not optimal. Like, there are a lot of better things we could have found.
Ah, well, that's how the game rolls sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of this is, learning how to roll with those punches and how to take a bad hand and try to equal it out and get to a stronger end game. I think people sometimes, when they're new, they get in this mindset of the party you start with has to be your final party.
That's not absolutely true. It's dependent on, first off, player preference. So, if you want to go hunt down Luca and spam 14 speed flares, that's your business. However, in a race setting, which one's faster? Use what you've got or spend the extra time to go hunt it down. Now that we're through the Dragon Tank fight, it's time to go get the future and probably get disappointed by the sealed chests because we don't have anyone that actually uses weapons. Other than Frog, who's not currently in our party. Blue mail. That might come in handy when I need to go do Heckran. Now this particular shop, I personally like to grab on the way out, simply because then I can start running towards the entrance while he's talking to us the second time.
Couple of magic tabs.
Not too bad. Though if I recall... Ooh, Red Vest. Because I can.
Yeah, that's super nice.
So now only the character named Magus needs to be looked at when Son of Sun does flare. Excuse me, land. Now, Son of Sun, you cannot hit the correct flare on the first rotation. On the 0th, I should say. You have to wait until the Relay Shuffle goes through before the boss is damageable. So that's 1, 2... 3. I may use a turn to heal up Magus. Because otherwise, if she gets hit by the Shadow Beam, she's going down. Fortunately, she was not. Otherwise, my bad menuing would have killed her. Like that. Fortunately, Ayla's base speed allows me to cover up any input errors. That should be enough to kill Son of Sun. Let's find out. There we go.
Nicely done.
In regards to whether or not you need to visit Spekkio to unlock magic, you don't actually need to do that for the duplicates that appear, bent hilt, that appear as Ayla, Robo, or Magus, because their base characters do not need to do so, the duplicate does not either. I have a couple of weird choices to do ahead of me, but I think I've gotten enough levels from this in order to be able to comfortably do Denadora Mountains. So let's go up that. Or I may wish to go purchase some ethers first. I think I'm running low on them. If I can remember where the heck they were. Though I should definitely check the Protodome character before making any further decisions with this.
Yeah, I think I would too. I think that's a good call. So do you have a favorite palette swap out of all of them?
I could say Ayla being replaced by Chrono for Super Saiyan, but honestly, I kind of like the Marley Magus one, where Marley has blue hair. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see that quite yet, unless this happens to be... Well, we're not going to see that because Magus is already in our party. It is, however, a Marley, and she initially started as Luca, as denoted by the pink hair.
Oh, that's cool.
Hopefully, she will have Ice too.
That fits with our pop rock aesthetic.
Ice too, yes, please. Now
Very nice.
That actually opens up Desert for very easy, quick levels, so I think I'm going to go do that. See, that's why you should pick up your characters first, because you never know what they're going to have. You are the least useful, Ayla, so you get kicked out. Because the desert enemies are all weak to ice or water magic, almost any full-screen AoE water magic will kill them in one hit, and this makes it a nice early play in order to get some quick levels and tech points. Though, unfortunately, since she is only base speed of 9, we have to be very careful with how quickly we enter the inputs, or else the enemies are going to kill her before she gets a chance to kill them. Not much to say about desert, except that because I have water magic and two physical damage dealers, it will be easier than normal.
Yeah, like you said, I think this is a team I would be very confident in this fight.
Indeed.
It's going to be a quick check and usually some decent loot.
At least that which we did not already loot when we came down here the first time.
Yeah.
One thing to note, I have not yet committed my tabs because without a clear path to go mode, I have no idea which attacks I will require in order to pull it off. Especially in duplicate character mode, it's important to pay attention to that because otherwise your choice of tab usage early on may screw you over later. Ouch.
He's sure picking his target well.
Well, it's his only real threat other than Ayla's Tailspin, which, notable, Ayla's Tailspin, due to being non-elemental magic, cannot miss. Which is why I used it before I hit Retinite with the water magic. That's a nice bump to our levels. A pity we don't yet have access to magic. Hopefully we'll get the gate key and then it'll show up, but we'll find out. Now here's where it makes sense. Our current Robo, who is replaced by Ayla, will still count for the purposes of this check. And there's the event flag that sets it. The desert is no longer accessible, and 1000 AD has the forest shrine in it. So even though we have the combat capabilities of Ayla, she still counts as Robo for the purposes of checks. Ooh, ethers. Seatbelt, blue vest handy.
Robo looks a lot different than he did a minute ago. That rust really messed him up.
Indeed. The hero medal. A quick check, and we can throw it on Frog to make him be a bit better.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Could still have our gate key.
It would be nice, yes. Because now that we're 4 or so checks in, it's starting to become apparent that we need it unless we want to have to do a bit of grinding earlier. So this Frog, who is Frog for the purposes of combat, is actually Marley and would unlock access to King's Trial and through it the Sunstone. The Grand Leon, oh my. I mean, if you've got that in there, why aren't you going and killing Magus for us?
That's a great question.
Now here's a point where you need to make a choice. You're already about level 20 or so. It's only going to get easier from here. Our Frog has Leap Slash and access to the Hero Medal and Grand Leon. Is he better than Marley or one of the Aylas? I think so for this purpose anyway. So we are going to swap him in to the Ayla that has Tailspin, because why not? This will give us access to a magical screen clearer, physical damage, single target, and eventually, anyway, healing from Frog. So as you can see, we did end up with Ayla, Frog, and Luca, but who they were was swapped up. Sorry, Ayla, Marley, and Luca. So let's check Denadoro and see what's up here, because I'm reasonably confident this team is capable of defeating Massa and Immune. Fortunately, with the Marley Frog being locked in Frog's Burrow, we can safely rule out that we probably won't need to do King's Trial for access to anything else, unless it happens to be Gate Key, but let's not go there. At the present time, I don't think I can make any determinations as to where things have to be, simply because we don't have as many checks done as we would like at this point in the game. You may notice I saved over the one that I saved at the bottom and not at the top. It's because I'm quite confident I can kill Massa and Immune with this key. If you're less confident, definitely use the second save slot. Monster immune, no big deal. We're gonna one-shot it. Or not. 271 times 3. Yeah, okay.
Now the real fight begins.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting a little bit worried by her getting slapped, so let's heal her up. And leap Slash is doing the most damage out of any of my techs, so abuse that. Oh, he's dead
Hitting
already.
massive amounts of damage. Yeah, pretty short fight.
Indeed. The power of good equipment. Which is a demonstration of why you should be open to the idea of swapping out your characters fairly early in the run if you feel the need to. If I had had both Aylas, he would probably have gotten at least a couple more slaps off, which, given that Luca, or Marley in this case, is particularly squishy, would have been a bad thing.
Yeah, this is a much more well-rounded team than you had before. But I think for the situations you were in, like you said, you were picking the best team for that dungeon or for
particular
that
job,
boss.
yes.
So. Exactly.
It's less worthwhile the deeper into the siege you get to swap them out, simply because the 75% amount of XP that gets leaked isn't enough to keep up with endgame scaling. So,
Yeah.
we have the pendant. We're already here. Let's check inside and see if we can get anything good out of the sealed chests. Afterwards... Ooh, Zodiac Cape. Afterwards, we've got a decent AoE. We'll probably have to do single target to kill the bits, and then we can go ham on the Guardian's body. So we'll go do that. I have yet to see any piece of go mode other than the Groovy Knife for Tyranno Lair. So, hopefully we'll get one that's different. Nothing useful in that shop, unfortunately, but life is life. If this check doesn't pan out into the gate key, I'm going to go do factory just to get magic for these two, because I'm getting nervous at how many checks I'm doing without them gaining tech points. One thing to keep in mind while you're going through the checks is think about which one you're doing next, like I just demonstrated, because regardless of which one you get here, it's probably going to be worthwhile to, at the very least, grab your remaining groceries before heading into go mode. Doomsicle that we probably can't use and can't sell. Thanks, game. Drat, didn't get the frame one. Ooh, another green dream. That might come in handy. May as well see if they're dropping anything good. Not this time around. And what did the randomizer put in here today? Gloom Cape for megas we don't have. Mega Elixir, very good. Hyper Ether and Star Sword. Mega Elixir alone is worth it. Already grabbed that chest.
And what will we get from Doan?
Well, as soon as the game goes through it, we'll tell you. The Moonstone. So that's because Marley is in the burrow. That's going to be locked behind Magus Castle Go mode, so not really worth coming here, unfortunately. With the exception of that Mega Elixir. That was definitely worth it. But since I'm getting nervous at how many checks I'm doing, let's go do Factory. Doing Moonskip because I can.
Do Moonskip every chance you get. Except for that time it just didn't work for me for some reason.
Oh my.
Azurkale and chat, get your predictions in. Will we find Lavos or Zeal go mode first?
And this is why we prefer to have lightning coming in here. There's Glacier. You'll be handy.
Love me some Glacier. Rhetorix made it look easy there, but he skipped about 3 or 4 encounters there. So at least a couple triggers that you'll want to learn how to do that.
Let's see whether or not this is enough damage. It is not, unfortunately. Now we get to have them explode. Once again, demonstrating where we like to have lightning coming in here. Now that particular fight will always be a quantity 5 slimes, but which slime each one is random. So I could have easily gotten 5 greens versus 5 oranges.
I wonder if you had gotten lucky and had ice water, if it would have been able to
Possibly.
finish. Ice water is one of those techs. It's really only useful in the early and mid game, but the few instances where it is useful, it can be a lifesaver. It can get you through Magus Castle with subpar AoE,
or for that matter, desert. But when you have ice 2 or water 2, it doesn't really matter. Also, most places in Black Omen, but then again, Black Omen is also higher level.
It's not fun to go into Black Omen with only ice water, but sometimes it's worth doing. I know I've definitely had it come up a couple times where I think I was waiting for Luca to learn Flare. And I was like, well, this will be good enough for now.
Now, each of the R series has 1,000 health, and I don't think that my Ice 2 and Water 2 combination will be sufficient to down them all, so hopefully it will.
That R series looks a little goofy.
Yeah, because
it's a little different than usual.
I guess they must be being built by Skynet instead of Motherbrain. And now that we have access to the end of time, let's go learn magic. We could use it. Mian in chat explaining exactly why it appears that the R series were Terminators instead of robots.
Well, I like it. Big fan.
Thinking magic. Really hard. Now, one thing about duplicate characters, they will they will be required to be brought here only if their combat capabilities are of Chrono, Marley, Luca, and Frog, as mentioned earlier. With that, we have the unpalatable options of Genodome and Woe available to us. We also have Hecarim Cave that we've been studiously avoiding due to the lack of magic and a large AoE, but those two requirements have been alleviated, and therefore we're going to go do it.
That'll be nice to get our newest member a little bit more experience as well.
Mm-hmm. So, Hecarim Cave gives you a total of between 90 and 100 tech points, depending on how many fights you skip. Ooh, Rock Throw finally showed up. That will give us the ability to use Ice Toss with Marley. Now,
I really like Ice Toss.
Yeah, all duplicate characters, as long as they aren't pairing with each other, have the same dual techs as their vanilla counterparts. So, in this example, the Robo, who is Ayla, and the Luca, who is Marley, will have access to all of Marley and Luca's dual techs. And they have the same prerequisites for being learned as their vanilla counterparts. So you still need to have Ice 2 and Water 2 in order to learn Glacier, like you saw in the factory. You still need Beast Toss Rock Throw in order to learn Beast Toss with an Ayla and a Robo, for example. So there is also the ability to get Beast Toss from 2 Rock Throws on 2 Aylas, which is actually not standard behavior. There is a flag in the randomizer you need to hit before the duplicate dual text will be added to the game. And getting the free items out of Pendant because we can. Red Vest, that would have been handy for Son of Sun if we didn't already do it.
This is a team I would be pretty happy with, like running.
Yeah, I may actually commit tabs basically after this fight, simply because running around without them, I may as well get some use from them. Let's see if he has anything good to charm.
Glacier is going to be so valuable in this fight.
Absolutely.
It's going to do all the work.
And of course, the blue vests and blue mails don't hurt either. I could have moved Frog or Marley into Ayla's spot simply to get lesser travel time on animations, but it wasn't too big of a deal. And the gate key. Wow, that's unfortunate. Oh well. Rando will rando
Well,
at times.
you would have wanted it before Heckran anyway.
True. Validation cat pet. And because I like cats, pet it again. So we've done Denaduro, Desert, and Xenan. We don't have access to Thomas Pop, so that's not there. We need to go turn in the gate key to gain access to prehistory. And then go to Reptite Lair and maybe even go up Dactyl Nest to see who's there. Because at this point, I would basically swap out the Ayla for a Luca if I had to. Unfortunately, this seed did not exactly grant us difficult characters to use. So there wasn't anything particularly abnormal that needed to be done to overcome the challenge.
Just a little bit ago, you were talking in a little bit more detail about the duplicate dual techs.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and share the link in chat for everybody. If you want to read a little bit more info about that, that's the wiki page.
Indeed.
On the subject.
The short version is that they get something to cover up their previously held weaknesses between the two different copies of the mirrored characters.
Real quick, I'm just going to mention the prediction results now that the submissions are closed. 51% say Lavos and 49% say Zeal.
Well, I'm sure I'll do my best to put on a good show regardless of which one it is.
Absolutely.
Ooh, a gold star. That will come in handy.
Oh, what a nice find.
Indeed. 5 MP dropkicks, anyone?
Perfectly executed.
Not quite yet. We still have one.
Yeah, but the first one was perfect.
Almost perfect. Did have to go back a pixel.
Wow. Excellent.
And that is a Marley who was originally Ayla. They don't have too much difference. It's really more shade of their skin and hair. So unfortunately, this seed, we don't have access to Luca. Unfortunate.
We have a question in chat I'm going to go over pretty briefly. They said, I've never seen this randomizer. How does this work with Chrono Trigger? This is one of the later weeks in our new player program. I would definitely recommend, if you're interested, stick around, watch some, join the Discord. But we've been doing a bunch of new player stuff. But in general, this is an open world randomizer, which means multiple areas of the game are open at a time, and you work through key items and locked locations to try to find one of two different, or really three different go modes. So it's really interesting. This happens to be a week that we're showing off a feature called duplicate characters, where the color palette of the characters is who they're taking the place of that scene. So
Indeed.
I just wanted to touch on that real quick without getting stuck on it for too long.
Indeed. Otherwise, barring duplicate characters, this is standard race flags. So what you see is pretty standard across the game. Ah. Oh, I can't run from this one. Okay.
I think these dinosaur enemies are so funny. There's just something about those certain character designs in Chrono Trigger that have that feel you get later on from Dragon Quest and those. Yeah, and Dragon Ball, where they're just like these goofy, tough enemies. I love that aesthetic.
It is mildly amusing. I'm going to have to pick up more shelters later. At least I know exactly where those can be found. Now here, because I have no access to lightning magic, Ayla is going to be a item tosser, while Frog and Marley spike him to death.
And what key items would you just be super happy to see here?
At this point in the game, Chrono Trigger. That's about it. Everything else, I've got basically everything I could want for this particular group comp, and don't really need anything else. Because that would give me progression, alternatively, the Dreamstone, because I know where Ruby Knife is. So either or.
So you're not hoping for the other half of the Masamune?
I mean, that would actually be something that we would have to look at. It's really dependent on which one I get today. As you guys saw in the factory, the enemies which share the sprite of characters, when changed, will also be changed. This also applies to the Magus boss in Magus Castle. If we get there, we'll explain in detail. Otherwise, we'll explain in detail while we're going through the other go mode.
Another boss that Glacier's just so helpful for.
Absolutely.
Although you are having to do it without having shock to stop him from hitting you.
True. But then again, when it's doing 1500 damage a pop, that's not bad. Now, if I was lower level or had worse gear, I'd agree with you even more. But at this point in the seed, I'm basically stomping through it and looking for go mode. And there's the trigger. Hello, go mode. Not ideal comp. It's not an ideal comp for clearing the enemies in Omen before Zeal 2, but I'll take it. Now then, did Trandome have any shelters? Otherwise, I'm just gonna have to run back to the fair, which I really didn't want to do. No, sadly. Oh well.
A friend of mine said you should make sure you have a couple revives too.
Yes, totally. Definitely.
I don't remember which friend it was, but it was definitely a friend of mine that said it.
Indeed. Yes, I do in fact have 8 revives. That's good. Which is actually rather important given the fact that we don't have access to Chrono, and Life 2 appears to be buried on Marley. So which characters end up rolled in your seed can definitely influence your shopping list at the beginning of the game or at the end of it.
I would think there would be seeds where that feeling when you get 2 really good weapons for a character and you're like, oh, I want to use both of them. I would think sometimes duplicate characters will let you just have both equipped.
Indeed, they would. There's no prohibition against having a single copy of the item equipped across your characters, as long as they can equip them, of course, and you have multiple copies of it, which does kind of make Frog somewhat less valuable due to the fact that there's only 1 Grand Leon and 1 Hero Medal.
But you'll have to get the one that gives the extra magic to Frog, and then he can just be a better healer. He can be magic damage healing Frog.
Indeed. Switch the creature off. I am going to have a bit of trouble with the mutants in Black Omen, simply because I may have Glacier, but that's not Flare. And physical damage, like Dropkick or basically anything Ayla does, isn't going to be too handy when they have absurd defense against physical. I tap? Yes. So here on Death Peak, duplicate characters doesn't really do anything. It's Death Peak like always. Learn the skips,
Well
run through
done.
it. Another Green Dream if I'm feeling particularly anxious about Zeal 2 or Mammon Machine, those will come in handy. Now this team is actually pretty good against single target bosses such as the Lavos spawn in front of us, because Dropkick and Item Toss, or Glacier and Triple Kick. Take your pick. I haven't used Dropkick yet, why not? Should probably have equipped that gold stud from earlier, but it doesn't look like it matters. And as part of the final shopping trip before we head on to Black Omen, we're gonna go pick up those mid-ethers because now we want them. Might have wanted them earlier, depending on exactly which characters you got and which text they rolled, but it wasn't necessary this time around. I guess Fritz likes redheads. Now, I haven't seen these shops yet, so do they have black vests? Black armor is incredibly handy against the final battle against Seal. Unfortunately, that's dark mail and not black vest. Because why give up your perfectly good ethers? Or shelters? Now, I actually have a choice here. I currently do not have a full screen clearer capable of taking out the laser guards at the beginning of Black Omen. I could either buff Frog with 2 speed tabs, or I could buff our Marley, who was originally Luca, with the same in order to gain that. The question is which one, because Luca is going to get slowed down by the ATB penalty that's supposed to exist but doesn't for the first character. Ooh, +4.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. If you have heal on Frog, that could be something that could convince you one way or the other.
True. Though I personally prefer haste if I'm going to do that, because once you get haste rolling, it does get much easier. Unfortunately, Marley just doesn't quite have the damage to do it, I don't think. So we're going to trust the fact that plus 50% from the hero medal is sufficient to do it. this is why you don't do bad menuing.
Happens to the best of us.
I should definitely swap in the actually good Ayla now. Ooh, Frog Swash. Without access to any Lucas or in this case Ice Water, these two will not actually be able to be one shot unless Water 2 has managed to get enough damage out. Which it has not.
Who did you magic tab?
Split. Most of them went to Frog, one went to Ayla, and one went to Marley. It was because I wanted to see if I could reach some damage thresholds with them as well.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to have panned out. Fortunately, they are speedy enough to get the first attack off. The drop-in magic tabs. Handy. Unfortunately, because our Ayla and our Frog are identical in speed, it's an open question as to which menu will open first. And I don't have the ability to swap any speed granting items in because otherwise I'd lose the damage I need on for Frog. So a bit of menuing may be required if I need to get the first attack off. Which is definitely something to think about when you are committing your tabs. Not grabbing these boss sidekicks and boss orbs because while I'm pretty sure that I could kill them, I don't really need the tech points before the end of the game because I've already got the techs I care about unlocked.
I need to sit and practice this room.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I used to have problems with it, but now I constantly do.
Yeah, learning the rotating mutant skip was definitely harder than I anticipated. The way that I do it is that you have to wait for the mutant to turn left and then get him off your screen by going up before he rotates upwards. One good thing about this crew, there are very few high MP cost spells, with the exception of Triple Kick and maybe Tailspin if you count it as such. And we have a gold stud to mitigate that, so at least you don't have to spend very many turns ethering back up.
It's really notable that nothing absorbs water in Black Omen.
Or fire, for that matter, which is why you see 14-speed Lucas just roll stomping over it.
Absolutely.
So that's 2 on the first elevator, anyway. A slasher 2 that we will immediately sell for gold. And a terror arm we can't use. Yep. Sounds like Rando to me. Another Mega Elixir. That'll come in handy. Bah.
In any other seed, this would have been a great treasure room.
Indeed. Now then, you've been looking at that this whole time.
There's the whole squad. Mostly Aylas.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get seeds like that.
Now, with this ending, we won't find out who the last one is, right?
Correct, because actually we know who the last one is because we already went to Frogsboro to pick up the Grand Leader.
Oh, you're right.
Medal, so we know that it was a frog who was originally Marley.
Okay.
It's just that we never had to pick her up because we didn't need to.
That makes sense.
I think I'll get the most value out of 3 of those. Get on the save point. Thank you. I think that the hardest boss in here will be Giga Mutant, simply because Dropkick doesn't do much against them. At least I know Glacier will be very, very handy for the end game. I got in here really late. I don't need to farm anything under here. That skip is not the easiest to get. I think there are quantity 2 fights on the first elevator. Thank you, Mian. Since I ran into these guys anyway, I may as well grab the loot from it. Another gold stud. That would be really good if I didn't already have one. Now, what I did there was supposedly advance the object's AI script to make the enemy close its eye faster, which I found works. It's pretty nice. Used to want to always trigger the fight and run away from it, but if you can can take the gamble. It saves about 10 seconds. Oh good, the Tubster will get killed by the second attack. That's about the most single hit required one, because it will counter every single attack with something to hit you back. Physical. So the harder you hit the first time around, the less you have to worry about. Some detail is lost when you go through here with Flare and 14 speed Luca. Now there shouldn't be any more enemies between me and Giga Mutant, so at this point I have to mentally review my equipment before proceeding. Fortunately, I also think I have basically the best possible equipment on for the task ahead of me.
Is there any gear at this point that gets equipped if you find it? Or are you pretty happy with what you have?
I already have the Grand Leon. There's no way that we use anything involving Marley's weapon. So, equipped immediately, probably Rainbow Helms or White Mails. Speaking of. And for later on, for essentially Zeal 2, Black Vests and Black Mails, as well as the aforementioned Rainbow Helms. I'm pretty happy with what I've got right now.
Do you want to briefly mention why you would want white males here?
Yes, because Giga Mutant has an ability to hit you with lightning balls. Lightning balls really, really hurt. Making them hurt by 50% less is a good thing.
I would say so.
He also has a shadow attack, which is unfortunate that we can't defend against both on female characters, because female characters cannot equip... female characters cannot equip the Dark Helm, which is the helmet that reduces shadow damage. Unfortunately,
I really like... Oh, go ahead.
Unfortunately, with the prevalence of cheap and easy to spam attacks, we don't really have anything hard hitting to reduce the number of times that Giga Mutant drains our MP. So, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is.
I was just going to say, I really like the team that kind of shook out here, because this is not a team that most people would like choose to go with. But in this category with these restrictions, Like, this is a really solid team that you've put together. And I just think that's something to showcase why this flag exists and why it can be an interesting way to experience the game.
Indeed. Duplicate characters in comparison to standard race flags really does force you to learn every single tool at your disposal. Unfortunately, it appears as though cube toss is not the greatest thing in the world. That would be the lightning ball attack, and it hurts. Fortunately, it went on the barriered up person, and the one with white mail. Why did I do that? And now we know why we like to have the white nails. HP down. Not too big of a threat at the moment. But what that does is, it's an invisible status effect that will reduce your HP by 1 for basically every tick of the ATB bar. Not exactly sure what the exact conversion factor is, but as you gain ATB or time passes, they're the same thing, your HP goes down. It's not the greatest of things to have to worry about.
I want to point out that is one of the what we just saw there is one of the differences between the two mutants that you fight. Because they look similar and you fight them in the same area, they can kind of feel like similar bosses. But that one, you do have to deal damage to both halves and finish them both. And the mutant that we'll see later in the run, once you finish the top, if you just sit for a second, the second one will dissolve.
Indeed. Giga Mutant requires that you kill both halves of him. Terra Mutant only requires the top. And here is the second elevator, so get your predictions in while you still can, I guess.
So we were going into this at 2. And now we are at 3.
I didn't get the...
Oh, no.
Consequence of bad menuing. They got my attack off. Not that really mattered. Indeed, we had an odd number of encounters on the... Okay. We had an odd number of encounters on the elevators. That's unfortunate. Didn't really have any way to one-shot these guys, so no matter what you do, you're going to take some damage. Now, Terra Mutant has access to Obstacle. It is basically the reason why you want Status Protection going into the Omen at all. And if they roll something like Stop, I am going to have a bad time. Let's go put something on to prevent that. Fortunately, that also seems to be the only one I had, so... Our Ayla will be... Get on there. Our Ayla will be vulnerable to whatever the obstacle is. But since we have two others and a stack of heals, we should be fine to counteract it. This particular mutant is the one that, as mentioned earlier, requires you to destroy the top half before destroying the bottom. Or rather, the bottom destroys itself once you get the top half down. It's also immune to physical, so there's not a lot that we can do except spam more magic. In order to aid with that, let's get the two ice users back up. And now we begin the glacier spam. Using Ayla as our... Oop, there's obstacle. And it's nothing so bad. We can work with this. If we let the boss live long enough, he'll start doing very, very damaging physical ball attacks, and we don't want that because they hurt. So we'll just keep spiking and see whether or not our damage is sufficient to overcome the challenge. Looks like it is, so that's great. Wait around for the bottom to kill itself, and that's Terra Mutant done.
And more loot for characters that didn't show up.
Indeed.
So I think there's a question that's going to be on everybody's mind. As somebody that plays this mode quite a bit, have you had a seed where it rolled the same character for everyone?
Absolutely. Not everybody, but everybody at the beginning of the game, yes. I once had a seed where it was 3 Aylas, no Tailspin, and a Terra Mutant in the Cathedral. That was fun.
No.
Which actually brings up a good point. Your characters will not always have the tools they need to do the job, which is another reason why you should have staggered save slots, such as saving slot 2 whenever going up against Dragon Tank. And that's just something you have to work around in the seed, because there isn't much else you can do about it. Except maybe go grind if you really wanted to. Ooh, 3.1 drop kicks, I like.
Yeah, dropkick is so great if you unlock it.
Yes. It's not always available. This guy knows exactly how to kill us. Fortunately, we know how to undo that. And this is where elemental males would have come in handy, if I had thought to equip them. I think he's going to die into the next drop kick, so we don't need to heal this.
Marshana is asking, what type of elemental damage does he do? Is it Shadow?
Elder Lavos Spawn has access to Shadow and Water off the top of my head. I think he also has access to Fire, which is what that area of effect magic was. We have MP for days. And now we are at Zeal. This is where I typically equip the black armor and rainbow helms that I have acquired throughout the game. Because Zeal 2, if you can get to her without dying, is significantly less threatening if you absorb all of her shatter damage.
It's very true. A lot of people like to have either shadow or water protection. And I think I agree with you that the shadow is probably the way to go.
Indeed.
Especially if you happen across like mermaid caps.
That will definitely reduce the damage of Hexagon Mist should you fail to do enough damage to beat it.
I love that last week and this week I get to watch Zeal get beat up by a great player.
We shall see what happens. Remember, it's not over till it's over.
That's true.
I think she made the wrong choice here. Because 1 HP Frog Squash. That's some nice damage off of Leap Slash. And I got the menu glitch. Fantastic.
Frog decided he didn't actually want to do any healing this seed.
I mean, the only thing he has to do to make sure his team dies is nothing. There's no physical damage coming through here, so... Do I have any tabs left? Nope. Let's go. Now, ordinarily I wouldn't advise starting off with a physical damage, but we have a 3000 damage dropkick, and pretty sure we'll beat that. Because as you attack Mammon Machine with physical, its physical defense goes up. Unlike magic, where you can spam it all day and it'll still do the same damage, but you've got to do it. But if you attack it with magic, the amount of damage that energy release will do will go up. So at this point, we're just trying to out-DPS the Mammon Machine's build-up. Which we did not do. Let's see if anybody died. Nope. That would be why it's typically more worthwhile to have strong magical damage against the mana machine. This time around, it's probably going to be dropkick spam for days in order to get rid of Queen Zeal. Sufficient. And I have 4 Mega Elixirs, why not use them?
Absolutely. You're not going to get to trade them in later.
Indeed. Even if you were playing Lost Worlds Plus.
Exactly. I love me some Lost Worlds Plus.
Get her able to respond to anything that Queen Thief does. Since our Ayla is from his lagging behind Frog with the dropkick, recharge time may as well make her faster, though it won't apply to her next kick, unfortunately. I do not like this. Oh dear. We should be able to get
Frog is taking a short nap.
Very short. I should be able to get past the damage threshold with just Ayla, though. There's Halation. Use Frog's ability. Frog
Nice.
Back up. Because why put your character's lives in danger any longer than absolutely necessary? Since Ayla is going to get MP busted because he always does in the first character slot. And now, barring Zeal zooming to the end of her script, we should be home free.
Dropkick is just such reliable damage in this fight.
Indeed. Hence why it is game spammed over anything else. And because we can, another Mega Elixir! And she's gone. Now that was definitely a weirder team than I would normally play, even with duplicate characters. Doesn't have much in the way of non-boss clearing, but it was serviceable.
Yeah, I thought you played that really well. Um, and my question to you is, so you mentioned Lost Worlds Plus earlier. My question to you is, do you know what the extra credit is going to be this week?
Indeed. More specifically, the extra credit will be taking place at July 28th at 1000 hours. That's 10 in the morning for those of you who are not used to military time. And they will be the same flag set, plus boss rando, gear rando, and a complete lack of Lucas or Aylas, because I want to see a different team.
I think that'll be interesting to watch. Do you think what do you think that'll add to this strategy towards the beginning?
Towards the beginning, with a lack of Aylas, you don't really have the ability. With a lack of Aylas, or in the lucky case of Frog or Chrono with good weapons and their techs, you don't have good access to dealing with Retinite. So, Retinite is going to be off the table too much. The Xenan Bridge check will be more difficult because you don't have physical damage to bypass the elemental protection on either the top or the bottom. But with the remaining characters, there are ways to overcome them. Uh, so, if anybody is unclear upon the mechanics of duplicate characters, Azure Kale has linked the wiki pages that we have available for them in chat, and I would suggest that you go and read them. Do you have any
As
addition?
far as I was just going to say, as far as the time for the extra credit, the best way for you to see it in a way that you know will be your time zone is to check on the Discord. We'll post something here shortly that will list when that stream is going to be in a way that'll put it to your local time zone. So,
Indeed, my brain had just gone. It's 1000 hours. It's just 1000 hours. It doesn't matter what the time zone is. Whatever. So, do you have any additional questions before we sign off, Cthulhu?
I don't think I do. I think that was fun to watch, and I am going to have to give this flag set a shot.
Alrighty then. With that, I bid you all good night.